Hi, I'm Roger Peterson. Welcome back to Pro 423. Well, let's get started working on recovering our healthy heart. The very first step is to own our stuff, to own our dysfunction. And what I mean by that is not necessarily to own our individual sins, though that's a good thing, but that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm primarily talking about is our patterns of sin, our patterns of dysfunction, and especially those patterns that drive a wedge between you and the ones you love rather than drawing them near. Jesus was most concerned about that. Jesus wasn't primarily concerned with individual sins, though that was important. What he was really concerned about was the heart and what it was producing. Listen to the story in Matthew chapter 12. I'm not going to read it to you here, but it's a story where Jesus is walking along with his disciples on the Sabbath, and they're hungry, so they begin to eat the grain of wheat in the field there. And the Pharisees have a problem with that, of course. Hey, you're breaking the law of the Sabbath. And Jesus says, I know they're doing the same thing that David and his people did back in the Old Testament. When they were in the temple and they were hungry, so they ate some of the meat. And he says, and this is a crazy line, Jesus says, they were breaking the law too. I know, read it for yourself. Matthew chapter 12, verses 1 to 7, read it. Jesus said, I know, they were breaking the law too, and so are we. And then he has that line, it's so important. He says, I really don't care about your sacrifices. I want you to be merciful. In other words, the individual sins, yeah, it's important, but what's really important is the heart underneath those individual sins. Let me give you two examples that might bring this a little more clear. I was involved in two separate counseling sessions with couples. And in this first one, the wife had said that the husband was a bully to her. And he jumped up and he was furious, and he said very firmly with the big fingers pointing in her face, I apologize for every time that I was a bully to you. And all I said was, yes, but have you dealt with the reality that you are a bully? It's good that you apologize each time you are a bully and you commit a bully sin, but have you dealt with and owned the fact, the reality that deep in your heart, you're a bully? It's different, isn't it? It's a different thing. The second time, the wife was coming and we were talking about the husband's anger problem. And again, he jumps up and he starts to pace back behind her chair. And he says to her, it's been a whole month since I've been angry. It's been 30 days since I've been upset. And she said nothing because that was true. But what I pointed out was, but every day of those 30 days, she was afraid you were going to get angry because you are an angry person. You have an anger problem. You have a dysfunctional problem of anger. You may be able to hold it together for 30 days at a time, but you are an angry person inside, and that makes her fearful every day. Jesus is talking about the inner heart, and that's the stuff we need to own. Our patterns of overreacting, intensity, anger, control, and our pattern of withdrawing, of being fearful, of apathetic, just not caring, withdrawing emotionally from people. Those are both patterns of sin that need to be addressed straightforward. Jesus didn't come to die on the cross so that we could behave better. Jesus came to die on the cross that we might have a relationship with the Holy Spirit and that something deep in our heart might change, that we might actually become merciful. We might actually become kind. We might actually become gentle and loving and patient. Not just do a bunch of things that look like we're those things.